So, Lan, you are a dynamic and passionate headhunter with a unique focus on the IT and automotive industries. At just 24 years old, you have already made a significant impact in connecting top talent with leading companies around the globe. And with a background in entrepreneurship management, you have succeeded in bridging talent from Vietnam to the world and from the world to Vietnam.
Lan, first of all, thanks for coming on. For those listening in the community, we've been trying to get Lan on. She's super busy, and
Yeah.
so we're excited to finally have her on board. I'm very interested in the recruiting industry. Obviously, with VietAssist, we have a lot of alignments with what you do on a professional basis. We're trying to connect Vietnam's labor force with international companies, and then also vice versa, trying to introduce international companies to the dynamic, hardworking, and ever improving people that make up Vietnam's current and future labor market. Now, I saw recently a post that you had done on another community regarding AsianWhiteCollar.com, right? Do you specifically focus, Lan, on only white collar and C-level positions and above?
Well, honestly, Asia White Collar is my current company. I'm working there, and honestly, not gonna lie, we do focus on executive search the most, like which is a high level position that we actually needs to do a lot of talking and negotiating in order to get those talents working with us. So I think, yeah, the name actually includes a lot of things about our vision as well. So we want to focus on executive search, and at the same time we want to be like the window to the world, like finest talent. So that's, and we want Asia to become like the talent hub of the whole world. So like the name basically just includes everything that we kind of want to become.
Now, does Asia cover more than just Vietnam? You're looking at other countries also, or is this Vietnam focused?
Yes, for the company's vision, we are actually looking for like the whole Asia, not just like Vietnam. But for
Okay.
now, we want to focus on Vietnam, and we look at Vietnam as like our center where we're gonna like distribute and we're gonna expand from Vietnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the current state of Vietnam's, executive level labor market?
You mean like current state?
Yeah,
Or
the current state. Yeah.
I have to say that in some industry, the professionals coming from Vietnam are quite like good compared to like the whole world. But of course, there are few industry where we're like a bit behind. So I just
Mm.
got into automotive lately. So that is especially in the car and the electric vehicles like industry. It's actually very new to the Vietnamese market. So yeah, I think in terms of that industry, we're quite behind. But other than that, if we look into the information technology or financial service or other like industry, I think that Vietnamese executives people are pretty good compared to like the competency from of people from other parts of the world.
Where do we lack? You mentioned technology. I would, which doesn't surprise me, where we are strong, but where we particularly weak, and you see that we can definitely improve upon.
No. What I say is like we are like Vietnamese people are pretty good in information technology, not weak.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Right. That's what I'm saying. What areas are we weak at?
I
What
think
area?
right now a trend among the world is like sustainability, right? But like in
Mm,
terms of like electric vehicles, we are like our talents are a bit behind since it's
okay.
very new to us, and like we only have like one domestic brand and few foreign brands coming to us. So we still have a long way to go. So yeah, in that industry, we are quite a bit behind when it comes to certain competencies.
So, and adding on to that, and maybe you've already given a partial answer for my next question, and that is, so what are some of the, let's say, key trends that you've observed in the international job market that Vietnamese professionals or aspiring professionals should be aware of? So you already mentioned sustainability, but is that the only one? Are there any other that people should be aware of in particular?
I think for the recent years, the trends has always been in the information technology, which like developers, people who do like really good codes. They are very much like welcome everywhere in the world, especially that in Vietnam nowadays, information technologies is something that very popular among like university students as well. So like every year when we take the entrance exam for university, those major relating to computer science or information technology are always like the one with like the highest score where you need to get in order to get in. The next one I must say might be like customer service, customer
Mm.
support. That's something that always has been like something like up to the trend. And also at the same time, we have, I think this one is pretty new, but we have B2B sales,
Mm.
or like Amazon business development. Like the mark there has been like an increase in the demand for those positions, and a lot of companies has been looking at the Vietnamese market as a very potential one, even for like other fields such as like data or cloud, like Alibaba Cloud or Huawei Cloud or new clouds are trying to, release more sales and recruit more salespeople into the Vietnamese market. So I think it's like something pretty new compared to what we have observed before.
Now, when you say customer service, are you specifically referring to roles such as an executive assistant or a virtual assistant,
Yep,
or
yep, yep. Similar roles like that.
So, and once again, you've already touched upon it a little bit, right? But I also wanted to ask you, in your opinion, which skills are currently in highest demand in the international job market, and how can Vietnamese aspiring professionals acquire these skills? So, of course, you already kind of touched upon it when you said, information technology in general, but just to line them up, the skills that
Mm.
are in highest demand from your
Mm.
experience, what are those?
I think when it comes to the highest demand and how, so we just experienced like a pandemic, and like the economy is like somewhat, I have to say, damaged like partially. So every company is trying to push their sales and try to like gain back their
Mm.
power after the pandemic. So I gotta say that the demands for salespeople are increasing like very rapid and remarkable from what I have observed. And for sales, it's actually like a job that requires a lot of soft skills. So I gotta say that it first of all, language, of course, like you gotta be good at the language in order to like work with international clients and also international companies. Next, I have to say that when it comes to sales, it requires a very high level of adaptability for, especially for Vietnamese people. Like we tend to have like a very traditional view of sales. Like we haven't really tried to think outside the box when it comes to sales. So I think that it's more about like the mindset and about the approach to the job than like the fixed skill set or the hard skill set that you can learn, or like by like taking notes or like taking lectures. It's more like it changed from your mindset and the way that you approach the problems. So I think sales and is a one of the most demanded and also popular job that a lot of company is recruiting right now. And if you have heard of this, Apple is opening an office in Vietnam as well. And like all the first roles that they want to recruit are like partnership manager, business development manager, key account manager. All those like position are like, how can I say, is very salesy. So we can see a trend that sales job are currently like the most demanded one.
Wow, that's pretty awesome. Are most of these opportunities, you just mentioned Apple, so just use Apple as an example. Are they hybrid roles? Are they remote roles? Are they in office, or what do you think the combination is?
I think right now for their openings in Vietnam, it's all in office role, like on site. They will maybe require you to work like on site, but for Amazons or other international companies that operating in Vietnam, they also offer hybrid as well, which is you can have few days working from home during a month or during a quarter. But yeah, I think most of the time they will require you to work on site.
Okay. Do
Mm.
you see a trend in hybrid jobs, or is it still mostly are you required to be in office?
I think that almost every international companies nowadays will offer like hybrid working method. Of course, like the ratio is still they prefer on-site more. Of course, they would prefer you to spend like at least 80% of your working hours at the office. But I also think that it comes from the fact that they are still struggling with managing the productivity of Vietnamese when it comes to like different working method. So that's why they have been like a bit how can I say a bit strict when it comes to like the working method for Vietnamese people, because I think the root cause is come from managing the productivity.
Mm.
Mm.
So you're saying the majority of the issues probably resolve around people just not being honest with how they're using their time, or
I'm not saying that it's not. I don't think it's like they don't trust the employees or whatever. I think that it comes from the fact that the company also need a period of time to observe what kind of like working method or what ratio would be nice for both employees and the management team to like operate the company smoothly. So for Vietnamese, we are very familiar with like working 9 to 5 or like from Monday to Friday. We're very familiar with that. So actually, it's not actually a challenge to us if the company requires us to work like full time on site 100%. But when the remote or the hybrid working method is introduced to us, we have to adapt as well. We have to learn how to control or how to manage our time as well, how to control the tasks as well. So I think it's come from both sides. We both need to learn. Like the management team needs to learn how to manage, and we need to learn how to adapt with the working style.
interesting.
Right. And this is a theme that has been ongoing throughout our conversations every week. It's also this idea that after COVID, I mean, many more employers have opened up, and you mentioned this yourself, have opened up the opportunity for people to work remotely, right? And this potentially gives this very unique and pretty new ability for people to balance, work life, right? But I hear what you're saying, that it's a challenge. It's an ongoing challenge. It's the same thing in Europe, same thing in the West. It's an ongoing challenge that as more and more people work from home, you get this, these problems with managing productivity, right? So what would be would you have some solution for that? Would you have some suggestions for people? I mean, we can't solve both sides from this conversation alone, but to the people that are listening to this podcast episode, people that might want to work remotely, do you have any advice for people who want to increase their productivity or who want to sort of get rid of some of the weaknesses that might lead to lower levels of productivity?
Well, it's actually a very cool question, because my very first professional job is actually a fully remote position, and I even work at like an HR executive back then. So when it comes to HR, it's actually a job that requires a lot of like human interaction. But my position was remote back then. So back then we use a kind of platform where we can control everyone's task, and we can somehow like manage the progress of everyone. So but I think that's more like on the company side. But from my side, I think one of the things that pushed me the most, that I know clearly that I have numbers, so to report to my manager. So I think when it comes to remote job, it actually requires a very high sense of responsibilities for the employee themselves. Like if you don't have a sense of responsibility, and you don't feel like you want to actually contribute and create like something tangible so that your company can see it, it's pretty hard to actually become productive when it comes to remote working. So I think the first thing that I want to say is to start with your mindset first. You gotta be so ready for remote working because it's gonna be lonely, it's gonna be boring a bit, and there will be days when you wake up and you feel very not motivated. So it comes from the mindset. After that, I also suggest like setting alarm, so that let's say after every 2 working hour, I would like stand up and I would like go around so that I can feel a bit better. It's become it's a way to like freshen up myself. So I think setting an alarm to stand up, to have some time, move your body is also a good way to make remote working less boring as well. Yeah, and the final thing that I want to mention is to try to engage with people through like company group chat, or try to communicate with people as much as possible to feel that you're still involved and to feel engaged with the company that you're working with.
Right.
Yep.
I have just kind of a follow up to what you're saying there, Lan. You mentioned maybe 2, 3 times already about the idea of mindset. Is a lot of times, I guess my question is, Vietnamese have, for the most part, Vietnamese workers have become very accustomed to coming into an office and having being surrounded by people, having those relationships, having access, and also the pressures of having their boss nearby. So that pressure to perform and to meet your quota, right? So has, from your experience, most Vietnamese people who have now chosen to do remote or hybrid work, have they been able to do this effectively for the most part? Because one side is this completely changed environment, but then also the other side, which is I think a cultural thing, which is the Vietnamese people kind of pride themselves. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in doing as sometimes minimal as possible. And there's kind of I'm not saying everybody, but maybe the older generation, but trying to getting away with doing as little as possible, and
Yeah.
that's seen as a kind of celebrated almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in remote work, you're going to have to find out to at least meet, if not exceed, the expectation of what your boss sets out for you to accomplish during a certain time frame. So I guess to wrap that question up, has it been a hard thing from what you observed for Vietnamese workers to adapt to this new way of working remote or hybrid?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think from what I have experienced, most of the time, people that do remote job or hybrid working right now are mostly pretty young people. So I think at a point they are very adaptable, and they are a quick learner as well. They're gonna be quick learners as well. Let's say from my parents, remote working or hybrid working is a very strange concept to them. Like when my dad worked from home, he was like, "What? Like, I don't think it's a real company." And like, oh, it's maybe it's some sort of like games or like some sort of like projects in university. How come a company operate that way? So I think that things really like again concrete my point about mindset. My dad and my the older generation are so used with the fact that if you go to work, you gotta go to your company. You gotta sit there, even though that you still use the internet and you still do online meetings, but you have to go to the company. But for young people, since we grow up with internet, so and we prioritize like convenience and flexibility, and we also have a new Vietnamese people. We kind of become way more familiar with work-life balance. So for my parents, work is also a part of your identity. Like you like your personality will be decided a lot by the job or the kind of work that you do.
Right.
So it really makes me realize the differences between like generation. So I think that for remote workers and people that do hybrid working right now in Vietnam, most of them are like they belong to the younger generation, so they adapt well. And at the same time, I think we all understand that if the company give you flexibility, they're gonna be way more strict with you when it comes to KPIs, like numbers. So now maybe the number is not, oh, what time did you get into the company, what time did you check in, or what time did you check out. It's more about the result that you produce, it's more about the output. So I think that they are adapting quite well, since I can see that a lot of people have been working remotely since the pandemic until now, and even like work with like several different country. And there are few Vietnamese company right now that still operate like fully remote. So I think it's a very positive sign, and also a very good evidence for the fact that Vietnamese people are adapting quite well with the new working method.
All right. So one question that I have, something that we've been discussing a lot, because one of the core pillars of the VietAssist project is this idea of providing supplementary education for people who wanna acquire some extra skills, become more productive in order to get that dream job of theirs. So, and something that we're discussing a lot these days is hard skills versus soft skills, right? So we wanted to ask you this question also, based on your experience as a headhunter. The average Vietnamese person out there right now looking for a job or wanting to make themselves as competitive as possible in terms of getting a job, should they focus more on acquiring more hard skills or focus more on soft skills, communication, leadership, etc.? What do you think?
Well, yep, I actually think that they do need to improve on their soft skill. Soft skill here means like at first, let's say resume building. It's also a soft skill to me. Next, interviewing skill. It's also like something I think that is very important when it comes to like reaching these kind of job, because before you get a chance to actually perform and show your technical skill, you gotta go through the whole interviewing process. That include CV screening, that include interviews, and communication skill and everything as well. So I think from my experience, I have worked with a lot of candidates where I believe that their hard skills are like perfect, are like just a good match for the position that I'm looking for. But somehow when they go to the interview, they cannot impress the interviewer, cannot impress the company that much. So I think it's partially comes from like the way that they conduct the interview. They couldn't catch, they couldn't impress the company. And also for resume building as well. So there are a lot of times where I receive a resume from my candidates. After we have a talk, I think that the candidate, like their experience are amazing, very good. But when they send me their CV couldn't show anything like anything wonderful coming from their own experience. So I think it's a very big problem when it comes to that, because like I believe there's some kind of saying where it's like the order of your skill is like the ability to like show yourself, and then next the ability to do what you have said. So it's like you have to be able to make people believe in you first. You have to be able to, like, how can I say, build trust with the person that is talking to you first. And in order to build trust, it comes from eventually it's come from those kind of soft skills, because we always have to go through a recruitment process. So I think that if they actually want to do to reach their dream jobs, they need to enhance a lot when it comes to their soft skill, especially when it comes to going through recruitment process. For the technical and the hard skill, actually, I'm pretty confident that most of Vietnamese are pretty diligent and they are pretty good at like taking exam and studying as well. So I don't think the technical skill gonna be a very big problems when it comes to this. But soft skill, I think that there are still room for improvement.
Do you work with the candidates that you have relationships with? Do you work with them on their soft skills side? Do you advise them also?
Oh yes, of course I have to do that. The reason why the title of headhunting of headhunters lately sort of become like recruitment consultant also come from that part. Like we gotta consult not just our client but also the candidates on how should they go through the whole interviewing process as well. So for candidates like that, I will like try to talk to them again, and I'm gonna tell them like, hey, we have a very nice conversation. I think that your experience like are a very good match, but I think your resume like lacks of something. So will it be okay if I work with you so that we can enhance your profile? Because I also want to like present the best version of them to my client
Yeah,
as well.
of course.
Yep. And so I sometimes, if I know that my clients are quite strict and like they might have some sort of like pet peeves when it comes to like interviews, I might do some kind of like interview prep for my candidates as well. And like I think those small piece of information would be very helpful so that they can adjust and they can like somewhat, how can I say, prepare themselves when it comes to like a very important or an interview to their dream job.
As you're saying this, two things come to mind real quick is, would you ever consider maybe in the future, because I know the people who are listening now in the community, a lot of them are going to probably, contact me and say, hey, does Lan, does she provide like some kind of workshop to help me, fix up my resume and make it attractive? And also, does she have an alternate workshop where she helps me with the interview process and what kind of, how to conduct myself? Does she watch me and shadow me and see if I exude confidence, if I'm a good listener, if I have the right facial, yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I get what you mean. Honestly, from me, I don't think that I am experienced enough to like host a workshop or to like guide people on how to do or how to build a good resume, and also with interview as well. So a lot of my candidates also ask me the same thing, like, oh, so how do you think that I should go to this like interview? And the only thing and the very first thing that I always tell them is to be yourself and just show them who you are first. Of course, that, how can I say, whenever that I come to an interview, let's say it's a headhunting company, so they would want someone who's like kind of salesy. So I would try to show them my salesy side, and I would try to show them like the best version of me that is like the best fit to the position. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I lied about myself. I still I would be very honest about what I feel like I'm gonna be weak at and I'm gonna be bad at, so that like I will still show my true colors, but in a slightly different light where I feel like I can still impress the interviewer. So I think for people out there that wants to enhance your resume or your interviewing skill, honestly, there's a lot of resources on YouTube. I learned a lot of things from YouTube as well. Like there are like thousands of people out there doing free content, so that you can like slowly enhance yourself. And I think that it's a good way to start and also very cost effective as well.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think in some way, what you're presenting an example of right now, Lan, is what we also refer to as imposter syndrome, right? I mean, because you're absolutely right that there are a lot of people out there providing free content on YouTube, but I think most of us who have try to learn something on YouTube University, we know that there are a lot of people out there providing free content, but it's people who don't know anything about what they're talking about. So I think, well, in your case, I think the reason why people might want to contact you is because you actually have something to show for it, right? You do have experience. People can look you up, and people can, and obviously we've been talking and we've checked your background and everything, right? So people listening here, they would want to probably listen to you because they think, okay, here's a person who has these number of years of experience, and based on that experience, she could probably give me some valuable advice or give me some tutoring or mentoring. So, and I would say based on that, I also wanted to ask you again. You kind of answered some of it already, but I'd say for somebody, let me first ask what are the most common, in your experience, the most common concrete mistakes that people make when they go to a job interview?
You're talking about like interviews, like face to face and like interview, right? Not
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
or anything. Well, I think first of all, business attire. I think Vietnamese people has somehow sometimes make mistake when it comes to like outfit when they go to an interview. Honestly, like if you have observed like the Vietnamese workplace, we are not too heavy on the business attire, honestly, except for like, let's say my parents work for a governmental company, so they have uniform, or and also they have very clear rules and regulation on how you have to dress. But if you go to like some private companies or like international companies, people might not really pay attention to how they dress or how they look. But for me, I think those are very important. Like if you, and I think the clothes that you wear will also impact your mood and your energy that day too. So if you wear a blazer, you would feel like, oh, I feel professional today. I feel like a real professional going to work or going to an interview today. So I think number one, please pay attention to how you look, and even small details like how your hair looks like, or like the smell, or does your t-shirt have a lot of wrinkles and stuff. So yeah, so that thing is like number one. Number two is to I think that that when it comes to an interview, try to be comfortable as well. Of course, that you other things like prepare before the interview, get to know more about the companies and stuff are basic thing. I think everybody does that, but be comfortable is actually another thing that you have to really pay attention to, because the definition of comfortable is actually pretty hard to define. So I would try to say that you should be yourself, and at the same time, don't put too much pressure on the interview as well. Don't think of it as like, oh, I have to get this. Like, don't put too much pressure. It's gonna like somehow it's gonna make you perform like even worse. Because I have been there before. I have been to interviews where I really want a job, and I try to show everything that I got, but eventually I the way that I answer, it doesn't sound like I'm being completely honest. It might sound like I'm being too pushy, or it might sound like it's not the real me. So yeah, just try to be comfortable and be yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you I think that's actually very solid advice there. I think if you feel like you have to have it, you will tend to, in your body language and the way you communicate, come across as very desperate. And
Yep.
I know that that doesn't serve anybody. I think my dad told me a long time ago. Say, hey, if you like a girl, don't ever come across too desperate. So and that little bit of knowledge can be applied definitely to a job interview.
Yeah, and I think like if you are too desperate for that, from the way you talk, it doesn't sound honest at all. It's gonna
Sure.
sound like so pushy, and it's gonna sound like you're trying to craft yourself into someone else. So
Right.
that's what
Right.
interviewers, people who are professional in HR, they're gonna detect that immediately. Because I know that even for me, I know a lot of personality tests. I can somewhat like sort people when I do interview. I can give like behavioral question, so that I can somewhat like categorize them into like some main type of personality. So it's very easy for people who interact with a lot of people, and also
Yeah.
people who are professional in interviewing people, to detect that you are not being completely honest.
Yeah.
So that's
I
that's
call it
why I,
the
yeah,
bullshit detector. It comes
yeah.
especially that's a lot of pressure actually for a job seeker, because they know they're coming up and meeting somebody who meets people on a daily basis, and that's what that person does. Any advice you would have for somebody to? I mean, you could say be authentic, be yourself, but
Yep,
is
yep.
there anything you could suggest to help somebody do that?
I think this one, I'm not sure if it's gonna be like very relatable to the listener or to you or not. But when I first started as a headhunter, there was a senior in my company. He was someone I think that I really admire as a headhunter, and he has a very unique style when it comes to like do headhunting. So he works in a very small market where only 400 to 500 professional are like active in that industry, and also the numbers of companies that have the recruitment demands is also small as well. The pool is small. Somehow that man managed to juggle between so many stakeholders, and no one hold grudges, or no one hates him, no one blacklists him. So I think he
Wow.
has a very unique approach when it comes to do headhunting. But anyways, so I specifically asked my line manager to let me have a one-on-one mentoring session when it comes to like building relationship and doing phone calls with him. and he gave me one solid advice, which is like, think of everyone as your friend. Why did he say friend? Because think of them as someone that you want to share a win-win benefit with. If you, even when you talk to your interviewer, let's think about them as someone that, hey, if I join your company, you do your function, I do my function, and we together both receive a win from the company, which is like the payment, and also we contribute, like we will deliver our like values to the company as well. So think of them as your friend and try
Right.
to treat them nice, like they are your friend and they like a part of your life. So when I first received that advice, I was like, did you get that from a textbook or something? It sounds so gay, like everyone on the internet gonna tell me that. But when I when I try to take that advice seriously, and when I try to actually call the HR or call my candidate like they are my friend, it's actually worked. Like I would just tell them straight ahead, like, hey, I think this position is good, but honestly, I knew some kind of like bad rumors about the company, but I still think that you should give it a try. Or like, this for your information, it's between us. It's not in the job description. It's not that I'm gonna tell the company about what you think and stuff. It's just between us. So I am someone that wants to help you, and we both gain benefits from this. So yeah, let's try to make our job easier. So that's what I've been trying to do with my candidate and also my client as well. So I think for interviewing, it's also the same thing. Just treat your interviewer as someone that, oh, it's a win-win situation. If you successfully recruit me, your KPI is also like, your performance is also measured. So you also gain some sort of like benefit from me. It's also a win from you. And if I get a job, it's also a win from me. So let's just try to make our job easier. So yeah, I think that's like one piece of advice that has been follow me for quite a long time.
I think that's a very brilliant. It's a simple yet brilliant advice because when I think about what you said, think of yourself as that person's friend. Automatically, what that does to my mind is think, okay, if I'm talking to a friend, what do I do when I'm talking to a friend? I
Mm.
smile more, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm more engaging. My
Yep.
body will relax more. I
Yep.
think when an interviewer goes in and they think, and then they don't position their mind or their attitude in that way
Mm.
that you're speaking to a friend, then
Yep.
automatically they tighten up, right?
Mm.
And they feel kind of a little threatened in a way.
Yep.
Like this
Yep. Yep.
person determines whether or not
Yep.
I can potentially
Yep.
make money, right?
Yep.
So I think
Yep.
the shift immediately is in the body language and how your
Yep.
body changes. If you look at the other person as a confidant as
Yep.
opposed to a decision maker that
Yep.
determines or not your financial life. So yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I like that.
Yep. Just think of it so simple. Like recruiters has KPI to recruit people as well. And they also have KPI to keep people stay as well. Like to, so honestly, they try to act tough with you and stuff, but still they are under the pressure of numbers. They want to recruit you too. So
Right.
just they are not gonna live peacefully if they cannot recruit anyone. So just try to, we should cooperate and try to make our life easier by like treating each other like as friend and on a win-win like state of mind, and I think it will be fine.
Before that, and in addition to the to this advice, amazing advice you just gave about how to change your mindset in terms of the job interview to improve your results in a job interview, you also mentioned before that people have a tendency to not be able to display their value on their resumes, right?
Mm.
So maybe, given that you just gave us amazing advice about the job interview, could you also, to somebody out there who's presenting a resume right now or building a resume right now, writing it up, what would be
Mm.
your greatest advice for people doing that? Something that would allow them to improve their ability to display their value on a resume.
I think the most important thing, and I think everyone would say the same thing, is to show some numbers. Every kind of job, every position, your performance will be measured by numbers. So just try to show the numbers that of your achievement of what you have done on your resume. It would be a very great help. I gotta be honest, especially for sale related job or job that for, how can I say, let's say for developers, it might be a bit harder to like give us like numbers. For sales, we can give you like the number of like the revenue that we bring, or like the clients or everything. But for developers, it's a bit harder when it comes to like giving numbers. But still, try to add as many numbers as possible, but still prioritize what is important, what is the most relevant numbers to your performance. Because at the end of the day, the company do care a lot about your past experience and how you contribute before. So just try to add numbers onto your resume.
Perfect.
Amazing. Perfect. Really valuable advice. Thank you.
So
I'm
you can't just be a nice person and hope to pass the interview. You could actually back it up with some
Sorry, the professional word doesn't work that way.
data.
Sorry to break it down.
What here's a question from the other side of the table, which is if you're an employer, some people that follow us in the community, they're on the employer side, right? Is there any advice you would give them, especially if they're a foreign company, right? And
Yep.
working with Vietnamese talent that maybe on the technical side, on the skill set side, they have they meet and exceed the requirement, but on the cultural side, what can you give them to kind of help them kind of better work with Vietnamese talent for Vietnam?
I gotta say that Vietnamese people are all about flexibility, honestly. So when it comes to managing style, or when it comes to, how can I say, negotiating with them, try to follow a harmonious kind of way. Vietnamese people, we love being harmonized. We love that everyone lives in peace and everything. So maybe so I think like small things that can be improved immediately. Let's say if you give the candidate a test, please also, and a deadline, please also give them like maybe like a choice to reschedule, or to ask some question, or to just like express what they might concern about. Like just a small thing like that can make Vietnamese people feel much more relaxed. And I believe that everyone will perform better when they are relaxed and they're comfortable. So I know that laws, regulation, and follow the process are very important when it comes to like a very big organization or a big company or any companies. But at the same time, since we're pretty much very used with like being harmonious and like having the flexibility, maybe just try not like to bend the rules, but try to give them like option as well. Don't be too strict on them. It would be a very great help. And even on like negotiating as well. I found out that for a lot of candidates, if you choose to go like to negotiate with them in a sweet tone, like in the like, oh, it's just between us, so let me tell you this, I think this one is like this and like that, it is actually a shorter way to get into their heart, honestly. But if you're being too tough, like during like the very first interaction, they might build a wall, and they cannot like open your heart to you, because like we all love peace, and we want to we want to live in harmony. So yeah, I think that's like a very it's a very cultural thing, honestly. And I think that international companies out there would somehow make this I will not say mistake, make this repeat this pattern with Vietnamese people. Yeah.
That's I actually agree with that 100%, and I like the choice of words, being flexible. I think it's there can be a way to meet in the middle, right? Because
Yeah.
Vietnamese people love flexibility.
Yeah.
And then most foreign companies are very by the book, but unfortunately, if it's too much and too strict and rigid, it's not like the Vietnamese workers again, they don't respect that or understand it, but culturally, it makes it easier, I guess, right? Because I would say that I would assume, excuse me, that a lot of companies would maybe miss out on some great candidates if they don't also take into consideration these cultural nuances, right?
Yeah.
Fascinating. But yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah, I think, do you talk to both sides about that, about finding a way to meet in the middle? Because I think finding this kind of, you have to find this middle ground somewhat, right? Where you got to keep the candidate, the job seeker, give them all the tools and all the understanding they can to, impress at a job interview, but also on the client that you represent on the employer side, they also want to
Yep.
hire, but they also want to be educated on the cultural little things that they have to be aware of that maybe can turn off and turn away or can close down communication, with Vietnamese workers. I think that's one heck of a job to do. It's very difficult, I would assume.
Yeah. Well, how can I say? But I believe in since we really like flexibility. So of course, our personality, we are pretty flexible as well. And we're very fast to changes and we're very adaptable. And I can give you a very good example is how we actually digitalize and we transform our whole payment method within the whole country, like in a very short period of time. Now, when you go to Hanoi, even when you want to buy, how can I say, a vegetable on the street, the lady would have a QR code so that you can scan and you can pay. That show how open-minded Vietnamese people are, and we like if you can show that, oh, this is something convenient, this is something that's gonna, how can I say, make your life easier. We're so open to changes like that. So I think when it comes to like meeting each other at the middle point, it's also the same thing. If you show them that this is like a good opportunity, is a good enough opportunity, they have the opportunity not to earn, but also to grow and everything as well. Vietnamese people are very open to change and adapt as well.
I think that has been one of the strongest characteristics of the Vietnamese people, and what gets me, I lose sleep at night when I think about, the work that Alex and I are involved in, and that we are actually involved, of helping the current generation, the future generation of Vietnamese people with regard to work and career, is that the incredible flexibility of the young. You're the third person in the past month has talked to me about this whole, phenomenon that you can go to on the street, the lady selling banh mi has now
Yeah.
the QR code.
Yes. Yeah.
know?
And like for a lot of ladies that they are not very high like tech savvy, the banks, they even create a system where if I finish transferring, there would be like from their phone, there would be like, someone just transferred you this amount of money, so that they help the ladies to make sure that like, oh, that person already like transferred the money, for people that are not very tech savvy and good with smartphones. So it's like, I think people are very, like, not only that they are very open minded, but they're also very innovative when it comes to like making their life easy.
Yeah.
Right.
It also comes from the fact that we love flexibility.
Yeah, the level of, I would also call it adaptability, right? The level of adaptability of the Vietnamese people is, I would say, it's unrivaled across the world. Probably also the reason why the Vietnamese people have never been defeated in war, right?
Well,
might come from the same explanation. So I would say, do you guys have anything to add? Otherwise, I think we're approaching the end of this conversation.
I just want to say to Lan, myself personally, maybe speak to you also, Alex, that this has been very insightful. I've been wanting to get you on because I think your perspective in terms of you're on the other side and you represent the employer, but these little things that I think I learned some things today. So I'm sure that the community themselves will find this a very fascinating conversation. And then we would probably love to get you back at some point in the near future if you're ever open-minded. I'm pretty sure there's other things that we can cover that will be very valuable for the community.
Yeah, I want to say the same thing. Obviously, so grateful for you coming on, taking the time to have this conversation with us. And I think one thing that was really great about this conversation was that you were able to provide both, like abstract pieces of advice, but also very concrete pieces of advice, right? Whereas, obviously we've had some great experts on this podcast, but out in the world, when you talk to people, when you ask for advice, sometimes you're going to get things that are too abstract, and sometimes you're going to get things that are so concrete that it only influences a very small part of the task. right? I think you were able to provide on the whole spectrum, which was really amazing. So thank you so much for your time. And yeah, let's have a conversation at some point in the future if you're up for it.
There's
Yeah.
one more thing I want to ask, Lan. What's in your immediate future in the next year or two? I know you mentioned that you would be possibly going abroad fairly soon. Can you, if people
Yeah.
are wondering, about where's, what's up with Lan in the next couple of years, what can you tell them?
I gotta say that yes, I have a plan to study abroad pretty soon. I want to get a master degree in management, and yeah, Alex also mentioned that my background was in like entrepreneurship. So yeah, I have always had this kind of dream to, set up my own business. And I also want to like enhance myself more in the consulting business as well, the industry as well.
Yeah.
So I am exploring a lot of options, and I don't think I will just stop with doing headhunting. Honestly, I want to work with like bigger companies, and I want to learn more things beside than just making money. And honestly, consulting has a very nice blend of both things that I want, like working with people, I sharpen my skill, and like one of the things that I think that I'm pretty good at compared to other skill, which is like talking. And like consulting seems like a very good fit. And also for a consulting job, it's actually a commission based kind of job. So if I do good, I will be rewarded. So I think like it's something that really suits me. So I think I would still follow that kind of path. Maybe I'll try to get into management consulting, or maybe I'll try to do something else. I'm not sure yet. But for now, one thing that I'm sure that I'm gonna get a master degree, and hopefully that I'm gonna have more knowledge to share if we ever had a next conversation.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
That's really great. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you
Bye,
for your time.
everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, Lan. Have a great evening over there, and have a great weekend ahead.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.